president, who had more to say about all of this. That interview airs at noon today on Andrea Mitchell Reports. I want to bring in now Bruce Klingner, former deputy division chief for Korea at the CIA, now with the Heritage Foundation. And our panel for the hour, political reporter for the Washington Post, Amber Phillips, along with senior Washington correspondent for Politico, Anna Palmer. Bruce, to you first. The president calling Kim Jong-un nice in letting these detainees go. Really nice?
Well, it really was removing an impediment to, the summit. If they had not released the 3 Americans, it either could have prevented the summit from occurring or certainly would have been a dark cloud overhanging it. So it's part of really a rapid-fire series of foreign policy initiatives by Kim Jong-un this year, not only traveling to China twice, but reaching out for summits with the Chinese, South Korean, and soon U.S. leaders. He may also meet with the Japanese and Russian leaders. So also rapid-fire initiatives of inviting international inspectors to see the nuclear test site that he vows to close, and vowing no more nuclear and missile tests. So a lot going on.
So then what should be, Bruce, on the agenda then for these talks? Because we know Mike Pompeo says they have now worked out the date, the when and the where, right? We don't know specifically when it is, but all signs point to Singapore in just a matter of weeks. But now they're trying to figure out the nitty-gritty of what exactly the talks will consist of to get to that ultimate goal of discussing denuclearization, right?
Right. Well, denuclearization has to be front and center. And North Korea has not made a lot of public statements identifying what they mean by it. But what we've heard cryptically through Chinese and South Korean sources is that they're continuing to have the heavy conditionality that they've always had. They're not just putting the nukes on the table for nothing. They're likely, Kim, in my discussions with North Koreans, indicates, I think that Kim is going to come with a big proposal. It could be denuclearization in return for a peace treaty and normalization of relations.
So setting aside the geopolitical piece of it, let's get to the personal piece of it, because I want to see if we can pull up that video again of these men walking off the plane for the first time. So, and Anna and Amber are with me here on set, Bruce, but I was there at Andrews, and it was, you could feel the anticipation. Every single person was looking toward that doorway, waiting for that first glimpse of these men who were jubilant, smiles on the faces of everybody who was up there. One of them handed Mike Pompeo a note, actually, a little bit of a note card. This is literally their first step, right, that we are watching onto mainland U.S. soil, and it is the first step, in a more metaphorical sense, in this journey back to some kind of normalcy. It is going to be a process, and Bruce, I want you to weigh in on the process of reassimilating for these men, because Laura Ling, as you know, was held and released in 2009. She talked about this in an interview with NBC News, about the process of coming back home. It's not easy. Listen.
When I returned home, there was an adjustment period for me when I returned home. There was really an appreciation that I had for the smallest things, and things that we really take for granted. Music, to hear music on the radio brought me to tears. Just being able to take a walk, a stroll in my neighborhood, to look at the stars at night. These were luxuries that I didn't have when I was held in North Korea, and so they became little treasures for me.
Bruce, because you would know this, and I want to get to Anna Amber, what is happening now with these men, with these detainees? They're at Walter Reed, but what's the process moving forward?
Well, a lot depends on how they were treated in North Korea. A number of North Koreans have been detained, and they've had really a wide range of treatment. Obviously, the worst was Otto Warmbier, who came back in a coma and died shortly thereafter. Others have been severely mistreated, and they've had a much tougher time reintegrating, back to their normal lives. Others, were held in isolation in a guest house, so that would be an easier assimilation. But, think in terms of someone in solitary confinement in a prison. It'll be hard for them, even if they weren't mistreated, to really assimilate back. So it'll be a process.
Kim Dong-chul, Tony Kim, Kim Hak-song. This was a television production for Donald Trump. You're out there, the floodlights are lighting up a 30 by 50-foot American flag that was hung between 2 ladder trucks as the plane pulled up. The optics of this are important to Donald Trump.
I mean, this is reality television at the biggest stage. He talked about the ratings, the largest ratings at 3 a.m., that have ever existed. So this is a real moment.
We don't know if that's true yet or not.
But that's
we'll find a fact check. Maybe we'll see.
But he was excited about it, and you could tell this was a real victory. Obviously, honestly a show that he was able to put on?
He's been putting on a show for these North Korea talks for a while now. I mean, when North Korean and South Korean leaders met at the DMZ, Trump celebrated on Twitter like he had done something fantastic.
Yeah.
He welcomed Nobel Peace Prize talks with open arms. You have Mike Pence talking to Andrew Mitchell saying, talking about this meeting that hasn't happened yet as if a breakthrough's going to come.
We have more on this conversation to come, but I want to also get to, and Bruce Klingner, thank you for joining us for that, but I want to get to the other major headline that happened while you were sleeping, not just the release of those 3 Americans, but also the U.S. now coming out in support of a military strike Israel launched overnight against Iranian targets in Syria.